Good morning, America! Welcome to another podcast with the Be Smart Beekeeping Hooligan podcast crew. Oh my goodness. They actually, get this, they turned me loose this week to do the intro. Never done this before. Well, and I'm seriously at a loss for words. Now, you write this down, that during this podcast, Yappy actually come up with being at a loss for words. But we'd like to thank everybody for being here. We're going to get some introductions going. Off to our left, who is generally always last, but our newest beekeeper in the group, Antnee G. So say hello, Anthony.
What's up, people out there keeping bees? I'm trying to keep up with your energy and excitement today, Yappy.
Telling you, I got my little ramen noodle junior on my lap, so I'm feeling the vibes of youth flowing through me with my little youngin', but he's actually chewing on my arm too. So
absolutely, that's a good looking boy.
Ramen Noodle Jr. here with us. But yes, and as I look at my screen, I've got to the lower half. We're going to throw in a little Bruce Charweth, the beekeeping, queen-making man of the swamp. Bruce, say hello to the people out there in podcast land.
Hello.
Bruce. Come on. Come on, Bruce.
That was wonderful. You heard that? Did you hear that?
Come on, Bruce. What's up here, Bruce?
Hello.
All right. His enthusiasm. We're gonna have to give him. Somebody get him one of those electric shocks.
Apart.
Now, let's introduce the one, the Cajun Santa Claus, the godfather of bee removals, the one, the only, Yappy the Bee Man.
Oh boy, how's everybody doing? Hope y'all having a fantastic day, because I'm doing my best to have one.
And last, but not least, one never introduced, who's usually the moderator, the referee, the one pushing all of our buttons. We would like to sit here and introduce the one, the only, Big Bear of Omaha, Tony Sandoval. Say hey, Big Bear.
I feel ready to rumble.
Like that. But I'm telling you what, all we need now is like some monster trucks to come running through the bee yard. That would be awesome.
I'm in my corner.
But anyway,
I'm ready.
I'm
ready.
So we've got our introductions out of the way. That's all of us. Welcome to all of you. And we had a bunch of little topics that we were going to go on talking about today. Tony, since you're the referee of all this chaos, what do you want to throw out on the table first? You want to throw out some questions from beekeepers? Do you want to throw out some hellos to any sponsors? Do you want to do any hive reports and honey flow situations that people are getting across America? Or do you want to talk about something in particular?
Oh, dude, you got this. It's your show now. You run it, baby.
Oh, seriously? I'm running the show?
You got it.
Yeah,
I was going to say in your hands.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you were giving him the introductory duties, but it seems like he's taking over the show. So
I'm handing it over. I'm just here keeping the recording going.
Oh, no. I'm not running the podcast today. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get a hold of Gary and Margaret and turn around and bring them into this and have to see. I've got the part now.
I do believe we have one of our members, though, that brought something up before we started. Antnee?
Hey, if you didn't hear me, I just wanted to say bananas. I know somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. Bananas. Yeah.
You guys are... Okay. See, that's what's funny, is because in your head, you can hear yourself say... You can hear Margaret say it. Banana! You can hear her saying it. But when it comes across on the audio and the podcast, we all sound like goofballs. There ain't no way we can do it to sound like her.
We got dead air, guys. Come on.
Well, I tell you what, though, in all due seriousness, between Margaret and them over in New Zealand, the guys down in Australia, they're all actually in their, I want to say probably late fall, first of winter, aren't they, as far as their beekeeping? So their stuff is already said, done with, and their bees are put to bed. What do we got? Down in the South, we've got Florida's probably kind of, I don't know, does Florida ever really have a dearth, or do they kind of have somewhat of a flow pretty much all season? I don't know.
I'm not.
Depends on the further south or east you are, I guess. You almost always have a flow. Like I know down in West Palm Beach, Boca Raton area, they always got something.
Yeah.
On.
Well,
we're hard. Mr. B dude Hardwood in Deltona. I think he actually has a little bit of a winter, a little bit of a shutdown period. But I know for certain down in West Palm Beach, some guys down there, they're always got something coming in.
Well, I see. They're a little bit. You guys are, according to the equator, you guys are north of them. So where are you at as far as with your flow between you and Bruce? You guys doing pretty good with still have a flow going on, or you pretty much drying up? Yeah.
Well, the bees haven't started robbing each other out yet. We obviously still have something. There's a little bit of tallow still, but it's about to be done with, and there's some miscellaneous stuff. Shall we?
The tallow by me is done. We have right now blooming head. Well, the palmetto is just about done too. The palmetto don't last about a week and a half. It's quick. But we having what we call the buttonwood trees and the tupelo are starting to produce. So, but they already got smartweed and stuff is coming in too. So, they're still bringing it in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, shall we? Is your honey as sweet as Tupelo honey?
What do you mean? If it's Tupelo honey, it's sweet.
Come on, somebody help me out here.
I know.
Good answer. Good question. I heard. Oh man, I thought you liked that chocolate flavored honey. I'm just saying, JP.
It's all good. It's all good.
Well, I'm north of you guys, up in North Alabama, as far as the equator lines go, and I'm pretty much dried up. Now I've got a lot of the wildflowers. I don't honestly know how much they get off of mimosas. I know my
depends on how much you put in them.
Matter how much of what in them?
It depends on how much orange juice you put in them.
I will put more in them. Then.
Oh, I thought it was the champagne.
I don't know. Let's see. But my oh crap, I can't think of the name of that tree that I'm just sitting here looking at. I've got some now sourwood. I'm not in an area that's heavy in sourwood. You'll find that more towards North Georgia, up into the Carolinas, where it's still real heavy that you can find sourwood. But I do have a neighbor about 2 miles from here that's got one sourwood tree in their yard, and I mean it's just as bright yellow as it can be right now. But that's about what we got going on there. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about like in the northern areas, Ohio, Michigan are still starting to. They're having a lot of swarm activity right now. So I would venture to say that their swarm activity may be from overcrowded swarms from flow, based on the time of the year. But that's about the biggest thing. I don't know a whole lot about what's going on out west, like with the Lopez's out in Texas, where they've got a lot of that mesquite and stuff on how their flow is going, but. I'm seeing a lot of posts on some of the commercial pages where there's still a lot of bees being transported across the country for pollination. Are you guys still hearing me?
I hear you.
Okay.
How can we
Well,
not?
nah, it's the joy of doing my Skype. I'm actually Skyping through the phone, and I'm out here enjoying the cool breeze while I can. And you know how these fancy gadgets get on us every once in a while. I didn't know if I broke through or not.
You did
Well, yay. Well, what now, Tony? You brought up at the beginning of the before we got going on talking about a topic that we've discussed a little bit in the back channels was the discussion of no free bees. What were you getting at when you were starting to talk about this being out there with no free bees to beekeepers?
Well, and I don't want to take too much time because I know Antnee had a couple things he wanted to bring up too. But just kind of briefly, I've been in a lot online and I've been talking to a lot of people, around, and they talk about doing swarm captures and, trap outs, cutouts and all that, and they don't charge. And I've actually seen some people go so far as to criticize people who charge for removals, live removals, that kind of a thing. And it's not just criticizing, but it's kind of bad mouthing them. And I know you've got to do it for free, like there's some obligation. And I'm like, to be perfectly honest, there's no such thing as free bees because you always have equipment costs. You have your time. You have, it costs something. You may not have paid for those bees with money, but you paid for it other ways, usually with time. But on the other side of that, we're conditioning people who are expecting a service. If they were yellow jackets or any other insect, they'd be calling an exterminator and paying somebody to remove that so-called pest, and they wouldn't have any qualms about it. But when it comes to bees, all of a sudden they expect this to be done, no charge to them whatsoever, and they try to guilt you into doing it. And I'm like, it's great if beekeepers want to do it without charging you, but there's always a cost. It's never actually free. And for those people who do this for a living, this is what they make their life at. You have to charge because you're putting more into it. You got things like liability insurance. You have, fuel. You're also answering the phone more. I know guys like JP and myself, it doesn't matter if, I'm Joe Beekeeper at home and I only want 5 hives, or I want to grow by 5 more, and then I don't answer the phone no more once I got what I want. These are people, we're out there, we're providing a service. So we keep answering that phone because we're here to help them, whereas opposed to other, they start running out of options as the year goes along because there are less people looking to get those so-called freebies. And it's like, we don't have to be so competitive, trying to undercut the guys who charge or whatever. It's just, there's different purposes, there's different needs, but there's no such thing as actual free bees. It's being paid for one way or another, and there's no need to be competitive or negative about it to the point of being, detrimental to somebody else, trying to call somebody else out or a group of other beekeepers just because you got the wrong idea somehow. It's one of those pet peeves of mine that people get into this unnecessary, just negativity about it. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, I get, we got bees on top of bees down here, and I do occasionally get people who call and, they I don't know if you come out and get the bees for free, and the honey's probably worth something, and all you can do is be nice and present the facts. Either decide to have you come out and take a look at this situation or not. But a lot of times with this bee removal stuff, you kind of get what you pay for. I'm not saying it applies to everywhere, but if you're in everywhere, you can get a decent bit of feral colonies, get the decent building stuff like that, and you got people advertising to do it for free. Usually they just haven't done enough of it, so you're going to maybe get somebody who's inexperienced, and that's not always less is not always more. So
yeah,
get what you pay for times.
But I mean, it's on the same token, I know a lot of professional guys like myself, like you, shall we, this is part of what we do for our living. I don't bad talk, down talk people who do it free. I just try to get the information accurate. I want people to understand what they're actually getting. You know, when somebody says, well, I'm not going to charge you, because they're out there for themselves. They want to get more bees. So it's about getting what they want, you know, whereas opposed to like myself, I may not get to keep the bees. I may not have the bees survive. They may not make it. I may not keep them for myself. So it's not about getting what I want, as opposed to that other person. Everybody's got a different objective goal point of, what they're trying to accomplish there. And just because they're trying to get more bees, I think that's great. But it doesn't have to be, hey, I want to compete against this guy, so I make sure I get my bees, and, I'm going to bad talk him and, tell people that he's bad for charging so that I can get free bees. I don't think it has to go there. And at the same token, anybody that does charge that bad talks the hobbyists and amateurs who are going out there trying to collect for without charge. I would say the same thing. You don't have to do that, because we're working on a whole different level, a whole different end game. Like I said, most of my clients, are people whose their own insurance companies demand that or require that they have to hire a professional who has things like liability insurance and certain kinds of professional amenities that we have to pay extra for to be able to go in and do that kind of work, being registered as contractor or licensed as pest controllers, things like that. And so there's just different modes of doing this, and it doesn't have to be this, contentious negative thing. But you go online and I swear, it's almost a battleground in some of these places, and I just get a little frustrated because they're making something out of nothing, really.
Yeah. I mean, and look, there's a big, huge difference, obviously, in, going out and shaking a swarm and, removing lap board, from somebody's exterior and spending all day, removing bees, comb, and whatnot. Yeah. Most people who have hired me that at first might have been overwhelmed with the idea that they'd have to pay something. I've had several, well, maybe not several, but I can think of a handful of people over the years where after it was all said and done, they were like, my God, I didn't realize it was, such an undertaking.
Yeah.
So there's a lot involved. They're not all created equal, of course, but I usually tell people, look, if there was somebody that I could that I knew that just needed some bees and wanted to come by and perform the removal, for free, I would certainly point you in that direction. And a lot of times they'll make calls and, when you got a ton of bees, everybody that's doing this is busy doing it. So, it does become work.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is, like, even in a professional mode, like you and myself, there's even differences between you and I. You approach it from a pest control business point of view. I approach it from a handyman business point of view because I do handyman work on the side. So I do repairs on structures and, flex it for rental properties and stuff. So I'm used to repairing roofing and siding and drywall and patching cement and all that. And so for me, I make a point to focus on, because I also have the pesticide, pest business background, of when I close that structure up, I closed it up so that it's not going to be reinfested. No new nests not going to be occupied or built. And then I close it up, make it look right, so to speak. You're getting a quality construction job.
Yeah, actually, we actually then have the same perspective because I don't look at a job from the pest control part of it.
Okay.
When I look, you're dealing with a structure. So right. First and foremost, okay, you got to be kind to the structure, and yes. Obviously you don't want. It's not about what's happening today. Okay, I've had people call me that have had 5 different people remove bees over 3-year period, and so why is that? Okay, something information is not being transmitted properly.
Right.
So, I've had people say, oh, well, some guy that removed bees and he said I would never get them again. You got to educate the customer. You got to make sure that they realize that, other colonies will more than likely be interested in the structure and it needs to be, caulked and sealed properly. So no, I'm definitely first and foremost, I'm looking. Yeah, I'm definitely. We're definitely looking at the same, the same room. If there's a maintenance issue, I'm going to talk about that. But yeah, no, I'll offer repairs on just about every job. If I can't do them myself, I pull somebody in. But definitely, I'm looking at the big picture.
And I've even done it to the point. I'm sorry, JP, didn't mean to step on you, but it made me think of, you talk about bringing other people in and the people that want the free bees. I've done it to where I have people, I don't need the bees or, whatever, and I know somebody who's really looking for it. I've had it come in, okay, you want the experience or you want the bees, you come in and be my apprentice, assistant, helper, whatever, to do the actual removal. Or if they want to go to somebody and say, hey, I'll do this removal, but I don't know what I'm doing with putting it back together, they can hire me or say, hire him and I'll come do the bee removal and he'll open it up and close it back up properly and all that. So I'm helping that beekeeper that's a hobbyist or an, amateur get what they're trying to accomplish and still getting the proper job done for the homeowner or the property owner at the same time. So everybody kind of comes out a winner there,
Right. Well, Shawway and Yappy, myself, and you, we actually all have the same perspective because we've done enough of it. And we realize, we're not there just for what's going on today. We want to make sure that customer, is informed properly so they don't have recurring issues. And if there are issues with the structures, we point those out.
Right. Yeah. That was just my little bugaboo about it. I see these conversations and comments made on some of these groups, and it's like, did you really just go there? Did it have to be all that? I mean, people are getting belligerent, and argumentative. I'm like, it's almost to working on two different scales. Like pollination, you got a gardener pollinating there, a couple of hives in the garden, and then you got the scale of the guys hauling around 2,000 hives on a truck to pollinate a farm. It's not the same scale. It's a different way of operating. It doesn't mean it's one's bad and the other's so-called good. It's just different.
So let me ask you this. Let me throw this in there because we're in our window of time constraints. I want to get Anthony's question. But what is one or two of the major considerations as a professional bee remover that you would want to express, maybe in safety concerns or thought processes before you would actually, something you'd express to a new guy to consider before they actually jumped into a job?
Well, since we're dealing with, colonies and structures. First and foremost, obviously would be, you want to protect your customer. If the bees are agitated for whatever reason, you want to keep them inside. If there's neighbors next door, kids playing, obviously those are things of utmost consideration. The next thing would be, whatever you remove from that structure, keep in mind it has to be put back, either by you or contractor, so don't butcher the structure.
I'd agree with that. That's probably I think for me, I'd just tell them, be honest. Don't oversell yourself or take on a job that's too big for you or out of your range just because you really want those bees. If you look at a job and you say, wow, I have no clue on how to take that apart or put that back together after I get the bees, be honest with yourself and be that customer and say, this is out of my element. Let me get somebody else in on this for you. Recommend that's got that kind of experience. Because if you take on more than you can do, you're hurting your own reputation and you're going to do damage to that customer's property, and nobody's going to be a winner on that. Being honest, like that.
Great point.
You had a post up, Tony. And somebody had talked about the unfortunate situation where this commercial beekeeper had a hired hand, and the hired hand was severely allergic, and he ended up dying from his bee stings, because he wasn't properly covered.
Right.
And Yappy, you get this. Your gear protects you. You go into situations that normally you could not handle. And I feel sorry for that family of that hired hand and that guy who died from severe anaphylaxis. but it shows the importance of, not trying to go out there and be tough guy. Oh, I don't got to wear gloves. I don't got to wear a veil. I can wear shorts. I can do this, that, or the other because, I'm new to this, and bees are bees are crazy, like you guys have told me repeatedly, and I see that. I also see that when I do use safe practices and am covered up properly, and this goes into no free beekeeping because you can't go in there all willy-nilly, halfway covered, think you're going to come in and get your bees and roll out. You never know what's going to happen. So having the proper equipment and keeping yourself covered and keeping the people that work with you covered. And like you said, Tony, protecting the neighbors, even the neighborhood, keep people away from what you're doing. Those are all not just cost concerns. It's not just a money type deal you have to worry about, but you're talking about possible human life. So there's definitely an importance to taking that seriously. So, it's like a lot of people, they want to minimize things. Oh, it's just this. It's just bees in the box. Oh, yeah. In all honesty, yes, we have fun doing it, and I'm enjoying this. But the truth is, this is serious. This is, you are in a potentially life-threatening situation when you do it. So, once again, to that farmhand, in that situation in his family, my sincerest condolences, but, no, but just let everyone just remember, be safe out there, protect yourself.
I think, you make an interesting point in bringing that up because you get a lot of guys who want to make a name for themselves and build a reputation right off the bat because they watch videos of yo-yos like me and JP and, all of us who do go out there, and on the videos, we may be wearing very little or no or, whatever gear at the time because we've got the experience. We know for the most part, what we can walk into and how the bees are behaving. And, so, and like me, I hate, it kills me to get hot like that. But, so if I don't have to, I won't. But if there's a time when them bees tell me that I need to wear gear, I will wear gear. I'm not trying to tough man it out. And I think a lot of people feel pressure when they want to make that name. They got to say, I got to look like I'm an experienced, big time bee guy. So I got to go out there and not wear the gear so I can make my video or show these people that I'm out there and courageous or whatever. And they go out unprepared and, they don't, it's not about we know our limits. I know JP, a lot of times JP doesn't wear gear when he does stuff and he gets to work with a lot of good friendly bees. But I know for a fact from stories he and I and Shao, we have talked about, they'll gear up. When them bees tell them boys to gear up, them boys gear up.
No doubt.
And you got to be.
Well, the reason we don't wear protection. The reason we don't wear protection is because it's hot down here.
Exactly.
And personally, I can see a lot better, without a veil, over my face. But other than that,
the same way.
Everybody needs to take precautions.
But you gotta have
by
that
all
ready.
means. Yeah, by all means, take precautions. Have a proper equipment with you. Nobody wants to get stung up in the face, and if you're sensitive, by all means. The last thing I would do is not wear protection because I wanted to show off or anything like that. It has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Well, I agree with that 100%. One of the last jobs I did with JP down in New Orleans, Shaw, we talked about it where we met up with Big Bud Watt and I'm back there doing my little bee removal. Everything's going fine. The bees are loving me, and JP calls me up to help him with his up there. It didn't take I don't know how many stings I took. And the thing was I was myself because I didn't have my jacket with me. And I'm telling you right now, after the first 10 seconds and 20 stings, I was praying that I could find that jacket. I mean, I'm the world's worst at it. I've got bullseyes right. They're almost invisibly tattooed above my eyes. And if there's one single pissy bee in a beehive, that's the one that's going to find me, and it's going to pop me right above the eye every time.
Best
Pro tip,
decoy,
guys.
hands down. Yappy B man, best decoy, hands down.
Yeah.
You ain't lying, but let me tell you something. And I'm throwing a kind of a curveball here, but we're talking about safety issues in beekeeping. Sorry about that, gentlemen. The one thing that I can tell you that drives me insane are people that, when not wearing a bee suit is an educated an educated action. We're taking the risk of getting a bee sting. All right. Now, you know what your body's going to do and react to if you get a or multiple bee stings in your yard. But one thing that I've got a problem with, and I'm not naming any names, but here in the last just couple of months, I've seen 2 separate videos get put out by 2 separate people on applying oxalic acid into beehives. And it's kind of starting, if you want to, my problem is if you want to turn around and you want to take a substance to treat your hives that has purpose, it has background and everything else, and the method that you do it and you believe in it, then that's fine. But when you turn around and you're taking something that could actually cause physical harm to somebody, and you're making a video and putting it out there and sharing it on all the bee pages, and you're completely overlooking one of the major safety aspects of doing that. That's one thing I do have a problem with. We could go back and forth and up and down about free bees, but my thing is when you're turning around and you're showing people how to do something, and you're sharing your experience, and you're sharing it by bypassing safety measures, which are universal across this world. That's where I almost want to turn around and say, we need to have a talk. And I had a talk with one guy, and he had his opinion, and he actually listens to this podcast, so he knows that I'm talking about him personally. But I just totally disagree with that. That's my one beef right now with people putting videos out that are bypassing major safety issues, because to you, a 20-mile-an-hour wind coming in behind you may be the factor there, and you put a little note in there. But somebody's going to turn around and they're going to go buy one of them little vaporizers and go out there on a nice calm day and think, well, no big deal, because in the back of their brain they've seen it. Pay attention to safety.
I got something to say about that.
Thing.
In a nutshell, be smart.
Be smart.
Yeah, be very smart. But no offense. People,
just take YouTube with a grain of salt. YouTube is great to see new things, different things. We all use to get information out. But I tell people, even when it comes to watching my videos, take it with a grain of salt, because YouTube is YouTube. People aren't, they're not making professional trained to make videos. They're just making videos of what they have on their mind at the time. And like you said, not a lot of professional preparedness and thought went into it ahead of time, where they're thinking of all those things. And you can't just, do some research when you see videos that are showing, training, educating, and do some extra before you just jump in and emulate or imitate that. You can't just...
Right. Well, I mean no disrespect. That's the reason why I didn't name any names. I mean no disrespect to the people who have put this out there. I just wanted to it was just a personal concern of, if you're gonna turn around and see anything on YouTube, actually investigate your own self what the consequences, the safety measures, if you don't do the proper procedures for doing something, and then give your best effort with nothing but safety for yourself, your bees, your surroundings, and everything in mind. And that kind of even goes with the bee removals. You guys might have said it. I had to step away for a minute. But my biggest concern to a guy who wants to go out there and get free bees, and he finds somebody on the internet that has got bees in their wall, and you can have them if you'll come get them. There'll be 10 people within an hour lining up trying to get those bees. But always look at everything in the vicinity of where that hive is at Does the neighbor keep dogs outside? Are there kids running around? If you mess up, is there a school or a daycare or something that close by that if something goes wrong with those bees, is somebody have the potential to get hurt and know what's going on, and then have some idea of how you'll handle it if worst case scenario things went bad, instead of just turning around and getting in the pickup truck and saying, "Oh, I'm done. I ain't doing this no more. I wasn't charging you in the first place, so you deal with it." Because I've seen that happen. But anyway, all right, Antnee, since I'm running this show here, we're going to change topics. That was great, guys. Thank you so much for your info. Antnee, you had some things that you wanted to talk about, bring up, or discuss. What was on your mind? Anything else?
Okay. I got 2 nukes. The beginning of this month or the end of April, or end of April. And I've been watching them grow. And 2 weeks ago, I noticed it just seemed like they weren't populating. I'll talk about Terry. I call her Terry, the first one. She basically foundationless on the frames. So the only frame or the only foundation came in the first, with the nukes in the first 5 frames. So everything else around is foundationless. Now, initially, I was concerned about it because it wasn't growing up. I fed it sugar water. I put an extra box on, so I had 2 boxes with frames, and then a box that just covered my feeder, and that seemed to draw them up. They actually even started initially to draw comb on the into the upper box, the second box. Now, when I went out there 2 weeks ago to check on it, it seemed like the population was down, and it also the comb that had been drawn up into that second box was gone. Okay, and then the population in Ambra, my other one, that went straight up. I had my 5 frames from the nukes, and then I had 5 foundation frames beside it, and then the box above it had foundation. Well, what the bees did with that one in Ambra, they built straight up from the 5 frames that were already established, and they went straight up. Now, I decided, because I didn't see the population just seeming to grow, to go ahead and put them on sugar 2 weeks ago. So I did, sugar syrup for both of them. And in keeping with the things I've learned from you guys and keeping my bees as feral as possible, I just stayed away for 2 weeks. I made sure they had food, and I didn't bother them. Well, I went on today, and the population looks right in Terry, and I'm going to just talk about Terry for a while. That box has now filled out laterally, the bottom box, and they have started to draw comb up in the second box again. But and on the other one, and on I'm gonna go back to Ambra. On Ambra, my top box is. I got some weight with honey. I pulled the frames out today and found, and I mean it was a different kind of heavy. It was definitely a honey heavy. I guess it's like, my question is, am I on the right track in moving forward? What would you suggest with Terry, the one that's foundationless, to get it to a point to where they're producing honey, or not producing honey, but maybe that I could possibly, if not a harvest for myself, is at least harvest for the colony. Are there any suggestions of what I should do next, since everything seems to be going forward? But I don't want to intervene too much because they know what they're doing. I don't. So do you guys have any suggestions?
Well, I'm gonna throw this. Let's just stick with the one that you said was the 5 frame. Did you add another 5 frame on top of it, or did you put them in a 10 frame?
I put 10 frames on both of them.
Okay, so it's just a single 10 frame box for both of them, correct?
Incorrect.
So you've got a honey super on top of that also?
I have no honeys. I have 2 boxes. Okay, let's talk about Terry. Terry has,
let's just talk about Terry. Tell me
foundation.
How many frames are in this box? Tell me the boxes first.
Okay. In Terry, in box number 1, the bottom box, there are the 5 frames that came with Dukes, and then there were 5 foundationless frames that I added.
Okay. And that's it.
And then so that's a 10 frame box, and then I put a second 10 frame box foundationless on top of that.
Okay. So you added a 10 frame box on top of that before you had the other 5 frames drawn out, or were the other 5?
They're drawn out now.
Okay, they're drawn out now. All right.
Yeah, they're at about 90%. There's a frame, a side of each frame, outside frame on each that is drawn out. So they're at about 90%. So I added a second box on that one.
Okay, and then you added sugar water after that?
Yes.
Okay, here's my little curveball to it, and you got to kind of see what they're doing with the sugar water. This is my throw in on there, and I can't wait to see what the other guys have to say. But I would say this: one of these days, if you've done bee removals with Tony, you can take a hive of bees and you can put them in between floor joists, in between the first and second floor. And let's say that they're in this void space that's 12 inches tall, but it's 20 foot long. And they first initially move in there and they draw a bunch of comb, and then they kind of stop and they start filling up that area of what they've got to do with. Well, one thing that I understand that somebody told me one time is understanding the age of your bees. Okay. I personally understand that you can get a whole box of older bees that are all foragers from a package, put them in a box, put sugar water on them, and they're going to draw comb. Well, they have to draw comb because they have no home established yet. So they will do their job. But now if you've got a hive that's established, they've got comb drawn, but there's the age balance of bees. My understanding is the best age bees to draw comb is between 17 and 20 some odd days. Well, if there's not a lot of young bees coming up in there and they have comb established and drawn, there may be a holdup with getting that comb to get drawn. Are you following me? Even though you've given them the space, think about it just like they would be in the natural between floors or in a tree. Until they really need that space and they've got the bees to draw it and the hive says we need the space, you could throw 100 gallons of sugar water at them, but they may not at that point in time go to drawing it. So it may just be the time and balance of what's going on at the time that held them up. That's my thought, and I can't wait to hear what the rest of you guys have to think.
Well, there's 3 basic conditions to drawing out wax for bees. There has to be an express need for wax to be drawn for comb in the nest. There has to be the sufficient age of bees. They have to be of that right age range to be able to produce wax. And they also have to have the proper amount of nectar or honey available to do that. There has to be a glut, an abundance of nectar and honey within those bees to kickstart that wax production process. But if any of those 3 conditions aren't being met, or multiples of those, they're going to be a limited or no comb drawing at all. In your condition, I'd say that you had a combination of things, and I'm just speculation right now because I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm just guessing, being out in a very rural area, you may have not had a big flow coming in. You may have, had that in both packages and even in nukes when you first get them. Until the new emergence comes in, you're going to have a little bit of a downhill slope where the older bees are dying off, and then as the uphill, they're building the population up. And during that slope period, you see a little bit of a decrease in activity and numbers of bees to be able to go out and do foraging to bring back food. So if there's already just a lot of it is timing and all that. So it's possible, especially with a foundationless setup, because you're having to produce more wax to create those combs versus a foundation, which has already provided the core. They don't have to put as much wax into it to get it out. You're going to see a little bit more of a lag in drawing that out a lot of times than in a hive that's got foundation in the frames. But, that's right off the bat there. I'd guess that there was maybe a lull in nectar availability, honey availability, and maybe a population dip where
both of those things.
Foragers.
Okay, yeah, both of those, kind of make sense because, just from what I was observing, I've been watching and I'm glad I had it both ways. One all foundation, one without foundation, just because watching the way they've grown and the way they've built. Like I said, when dealing with all foundation frames, now dealing with no foundation in the frames,
we lost you.
They went horizontal. Now the horizontal frame, or the horizontal, which is the bottom box, is full. They're starting to go up. So I'm learning a lot about their activity and their nature. I was able to compare. So I do appreciate you guys recommending that. Having multiple hives. So that you can help together. I mean, at one point I thought about maybe taking out the foundationless frames and replacing it with frames with foundation to speed up the process. But I'm not in a hurry. I'm just about, my goal is getting both colonies through the winter. So I want them to grow strong, not fast.
Well, Tony, what do you think about in this situation with possibly doing now some checkerboarding?
Well, checkerboarding has, to me, the greatest impact at this point in time that you're going to see any kind of checkerboarding, and that's only in where there's no brood involved directly. But like, say, mixing up foundation with foundationless frames, that just helps use the bees use the foundation to help keep the combs, the foundationless ones, straight, within, as like a guide on the outside. So that can help. Definitely, and it'll also help speed things up because they'll draw quicker on the foundation. And also at this point in time, it's starting to lull down where they're not building as much wax at this time of the year around here. They're going to start kicking into wanting to make honey and not use it for making wax. So you may find better honey production putting foundation in and letting them to get that kickstart on storing it rather than having to draw everything from nothing. You might find that if you don't, have the wax already there for them, they'll just stay underperforming that way.
Well, I know, probably going to be people that are listening to this that, are sitting there screaming at their device going, what about checkerboarding? And that's why I kind of wanted to, the area of flow circumstances a lot better. That's why I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. Plus, what would worry me, if they're not in the mood of drawing comb, but they're kind of more in production mode than drawing mode, I would be worried that if he put in some methods of checkerboarding that they may actually just drop ridge comb right in between the empty frame and draw comb from drawn frame through the empty frame.
Holy moly!
Yeah, what in the world? Are you all right, Anthony?
That wasn't me.
Yeah, that was totally me. I thought you were muted and I was shutting my garage door, and I'm having technical difficulties and multitasking. But what were you saying about cross-combing, JP?
I was just sitting there thinking. I was saying that I brought up the checkerboarding issue because of the fact that A, you are doing foundation, but B, with them doing the lack of drawing comb right now and how that would work. But anyway, it was just making, acknowledging that we kind of were looking at different circumstances. But anyway, so that's that part. Where are we at on time, Tony? How we doing?
We are looking at about 8 minutes left.
8 minutes left? All right. Well, we're going to sit here and we're going to listen to Bruce do whatever it is he's doing.
Bruce is playing a banjo with one finger.
Yeah.
How you know?
Because that's what it sounds like.
Well, all right. We'll go ahead and let's get it. We can kind of get in because it usually takes us 6 or 7 minutes anyway. Anything? Let's start talking about last thoughts on life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, bees. Anything you got? JP, how's any last thoughts from you, my friend?
I'm just giving the floor to Shawee. I think it's his turn to share with us whatever he wants to talk about, since we've kind of hogged the floor today, so to speak.
Well, he didn't bring Shawee, so we're all upset. We're mad at him. We're just not telling him.
Mad at who?
We're mad at you for not having a little Shawee with you.
I didn't have Shawee with me. I sure had Shawee.
You left him outside. You left her outside.
Oh, I went and put her outside right now. She's into everything. She's wound up now.
She got her.
Climbs, she opens, and she makes a mess.
Is she big?
That's it.
How much she weigh now?
I never weighed her, but she's 3/4 grown. I mean, you see how big she is. But she's having fun outside. I play with her out there every day. I let her out and let her run around for about an hour or two. Take her to the garden. Take her to the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Love the water.
You should see her little bee.
Yeah.
You dress her. You dress her up?
No. Yesterday, I got my swimming pool drain. I'm cleaning it out. And I had about a foot of water in it, and I got bees that go down there and drink the water and stuff. And she's in it, and she's running around in the water playing, and she goes and chases the bees, until one of them gets in her hair, and then she don't like that. She takes off running, trying to get it out. And between that and my dog eating the bees, my dog will go ahead and eat them. He'll catch them out there and eat them. But she had fun.
Well, I got a question for you guys. It is something that I just actually popped itself up right in front of my face. Do you guys have any methods of dealing with dragonflies in your bee yard?
Yeah. I'll sit there and put a chair out and sit there with a little tablet and count how many bees they get when I'm not doing nothing. But I don't think you can do anything, Yappy. At least by me, I have so many of them,
Yeah. Well, I heard one guy turn around and he chased him around his yard with a tennis racket. Was about it. But, we see a lot of stuff on Facebook about, this time of the year where in some of the southern regions, and now that it's warming up, you get a lot of bees hanging out on the front of a beehive, and the newer population of beekeepers asking what's going on, and all the rest of them come back in the States washboarding. Don't worry about it. Do you guys? Have I ever told you what the true understanding of washboarding is?
No.
Huh?
I didn't hear it.
Oh, dude, washboarding is actually the celebration dance of the honeybees for that season's crop coming in. People think it's some kind of scientific something or other. All that is just the bees that are all in unison that are dancing on the front of a beehive saying thank you to the honey gods for that year's harvest. You didn't know that?
Well, mine are messing up then because they do that before the honey harvest.
Well, they're just getting their dance routine down. That's all.
Oh, they practicing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys didn't know that.
Hey, I got a solution
so
for your
are-
dragonflies.
What's that?
Go and import. It's a biological response. You know, like you go out and you get predatory wasps to handle, you know, certain kinds of grubs and all that. You know, they're parasitic and they only parasitize one species. You know, and you can bring them in.
Oh, okay.
You just go out and buy a bunch of mosquitoes because the dragonflies will chase the mosquitoes if they're abundant before they chase the bees.
That's baloney.
Oh yeah. Oh no, really. You just got to buy the Zika-free mosquitoes. You know, they'll ship you up. You know, a 10-pound bag,
okay.
and you empty
As
them
many
out.
as mosquitoes we got down south. The only thing you can do is have a real good laying queen to keep the population built up.
Yeah, compensate.
Yeah, and then when any virgin queens go on their maiden flights, you just got to put the little protective armor on them
That's right.
until they get mated.
We see, I'm training some drones to be their fighters protection. You know, when she comes in, but it's not working too good. But at this time of year on, my queen breeding, my return on my virgin queens dropped dramatically. You know, you might get 60% return on your queens because of it. You know, and the mosquito hawks are pretty thick right now, or the dragonflies.
Yeah.
Mosquito hawks. I like
you
that.
You heard of Russian bees, right? And you got your Caucasian and all that. People buy.
I had some
specific-
Russian.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a new one out that they came out with that's supposed to be super, you know, dedicated to a certain, you know, behavior. And they're the Nordic bees. What they do is when the queens go out, they send a bunch of Valkyrie warrior bees, worker bees with them. And they stand guard as the queens are mating, and they just kind of hang out waiting, you know, ready to sting any attackers. They're Valkyrie bees, Val bees.
Valby.
I hope you graft in some of those genetic.
Oh yeah.
I make this stuff as I go. Come on.
Okay, yeah, that one was kind of obvious that you made that one up.
I only made up the guard, the you know, the
Well, I noticed one thing though. I don't after the queens that make it at this time, pretty much all of them are real good layers. So you know, my thinking is that maybe they're eating the ones that wasn't going to be a good layer that I don't have to pitch now since they took care of them.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're at the 2-minute mark, so shall we? I beg your forgiveness for interrupting you on that very, very good point that you're making, and that is that the slow, lazy queens are the ones that are getting eaten by the dragonflies.
That's
But
right.
Anyway, well, guys, that's another one in the books, man. I enjoyed it, and I'm saying goodbye. Real quick, we're under the radar, or under the gun, so say goodbye. Pass it on.
I would vote though that next time, Yappy. I mean, everything went pretty well, but you know, there were some moments there, Yappy, where a lot of distortion coming from your way. So I would vote that you don't breastfeed the kid anymore during the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, listen, Raymond Noodle Jr. is sitting here with the hiccups on a bottle, but I'll try. That's why the camera's been off the whole time. All right, guys. Well, thanks for the fun. Check us out next week, and be ready for some more fun and excitement from the Beehooligans. That'll be me and them and us and all of us. But until then, as Tony Sandoval says, be smart.